Tonight on First at 9, this Monday, 17th of June 2024. Only the wealthy. IMF's proposed imputed rental income tax to be imposed on high-income earners, the Finance Ministry reveals. Elimination. Sri Lanka is determined to eradicate poverty within rural areas, says President Wickremesinghe. Positive trajectory. Sri Lanka's economy shows significant growth, reveals State Minister of Finance Ranjit Siambalapitiya. Goes on to say that the industrial sector exhibited excellent growth. Connectivity. New railway lines to be built connecting Mihintale to Trincomalee. Government to allocate over 8 billion to complete essential transport infrastructure projects.
ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දිනු සෙන්සුරයින් දැන් ළඟමැති ෆාමසියෙන් ලබාගත හැක.
From Derana, this is Derana First at 9 with Indivari Amuata. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
And a very warm welcome. You're joining us this Monday on First at 9 with the very latest from across Sri Lanka and around the world. But today we begin with the festivities. With the sighting of the crescent moon for the month of Hajj, citizens of Islamic faith across Sri Lanka celebrated the festival of Eid al-Adha today, commemorating Prophet Ibrahim's willingness to sacrifice his son to Allah. Muslim communities across the globe engaged in religious observances, with over 1.8 million pilgrims taking part in the Hajj pilgrimage to the holy city of Mecca this year. Meanwhile, extending his wishes, President Ranil Wickremesinghe said that Hajj celebration fosters feelings of equality and brotherhood among all people, delivering a profound message for world peace.
Muslims worldwide mark Eid al-Adha, also known as the Feast of Sacrifice, to commemorate the Quranic tale of Prophet Ibrahim's willingness to sacrifice his son Ismail as a sign of obedience to God. This Muslim festival coincides with the culmination of annual pilgrimage to Mecca in Saudi Arabia. Supporting the spirit of brotherhood, unity and equality, the sacred event of Hajj brings together Muslims from all over the world. According to the Saudi General Authority for Statistics, more than 1.8 million pilgrims took part in the Hajj pilgrimage to the holy city of Mecca this year, with over 1.6 million pilgrims arriving from outside the kingdom. The Islamic community in Sri Lanka too engaged in religious observances across the country, joining the Muslims worldwide. In a message to mark the festival, President Ranil Wickremesinghe says the Hajj celebration fosters feelings of equality and brotherhood among all people, delivering a profound message for world peace. The head of state emphasized that in order to achieve spirituality and worldly success, individuals must abandon selfishness and embrace a life of sacrifice and harmony. Meanwhile, in his message, Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena requests everyone to embrace friendship and brotherhood, giving up insignificant differences by fostering Sri Lankan society with spiritual values. Prime Minister Gunawardena highlighted that the main objective of Hajj festival is to live in harmony with equality. Extending his wishes, the leader of the opposition Sajith Premadasa urged everyone to join hands and contribute towards the development of the country, regardless of race, religion, caste, class, party and status. The opposition leader further emphasized that the religion aims to perfect human society through kindness and create a better community.
Less sugar, same great taste. From Melbourne.
President Ranil Wickremesinghe says that poverty in Sri Lanka lies not in urban areas but in rural areas of the country, which is why the government is taking the initiative to increase the incomes of rural population through the Urumaya Freehold Land Ownership Program. Attending a ceremony in Ambilipitiya, the head of state further said that it is the responsibility of the government to provide land ownership for the agricultural community, which supported the economic recovery when other industries came to a standstill following the economic crisis.
A ceremony was held at the Ambilipitiya Mahaveli Stadium this morning to award freehold land deeds to 1,524 out of 45,253 eligible settlers in the Mahaveli Walava region under the Urumaya program. The event was held under the patronage of President Ranil Wickremesinghe.
85,000කට අපිට ඔප්පු දෙන්න තියෙනවා.
We have 85,000 people to give deeds to. Out of them, 45,000 people have issues related to the land that must be solved. I have instructed all relevant authorities to issue freehold land deeds within the next 2 months. Why is that? We took over the country at a difficult time. During difficult time, everyone has to share the burden. But we tend not to share the profits. Only a small minority gets to benefit from the profits. Therefore, I thought, as an initiative to share the profit, to give freehold lands rights to everyone. In Colombo, we do not have paddy fields to give, but we are working to provide housing rights to 250,000 low-income residents living in flats in Colombo by next month. We are distributing the ownership, which is important. When we assumed office, the country was in crisis with no electricity and a lack of fuel and medicines. To recover, we prioritized increase in production. However, we couldn't do that due to a lack of electricity. Industries were not working, and there was no use in building hotels when there were no tourists. So I had only one thing to increase production, which is paddy production in the yellow season in 2022 and 2023. Our farmers did that for us. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to say that the country is recovering from bankruptcy, which will be done by next month. Therefore, isn't it fair to give that right to the farmers? In this country, poverty is in rural areas, not urban areas. To eliminate rural poverty, we must carry out an agriculture revolution. With the land ownership, we are working on modernizing as well. We are trying to give you ownership as well as a source of income. In order to come out of poverty, the first thing is ownership. The second is increasing your income through agriculture modernization.
ඔබේ ආදායම වැඩි කරන එක.
Crunchy goodness for hunger on the go.
State Minister of Finance Ranjit Siambalapitiya says that the Sri Lankan economy has shown significant growth during the first quarter of this year and that the industrial sector has also exhibited excellent growth. The Finance State Minister added that with the release of the third tranche of the IMF EFF facility, the public can be optimistic about the economic future of Sri Lanka, but that the country should proceed on this journey with caution.
During the first quarter, the country's economy has grown by 5.3%. The industrial sector has grown by 11.8%. These figures may be regarded as significant. During the final quarter of 2022, the country's economy contracted by 12%. However, this year's quarter has shown a positive growth rate of 5.3%. So I think we should maintain optimism over Sri Lanka's economic journey. Some international forecast even surpasses our forecast. According to the World Bank, overall growth is expected to be 2.2%. Any unbiased analyst would see it as a huge win if we were able to achieve that growth. They were satisfied with the progress and decided to release the third tranche. They do their own independent research on this. They have clearly approved our program. IMF officials declared that Sri Lanka has reached a better situation and they approve our program. We acknowledge the fact that they have suggested that the nation should proceed cautiously.
State Minister of Finance Shehan Semasinghe meanwhile says the government will allocate funds of over 8 billion rupees to ensure the speedy completion of essential transport infrastructure projects undertaken in the country. Minister of Transport Dr. Bandula Gunawardena also revealed that the second phase of the renovation of Northern Railway line will be completed within the next 2 months. The initial steps have been taken to construct a new railway line connecting Mihintale to Trincomalee.
The renovated railway line from Mihintale to Anuradhapura was inaugurated today by the Minister of Highways, Transport and Mass Media, Dr. Bandula Gunawardena. The inauguration ceremony was also attended by State Minister of Finance, Shehan Semasinghe.
We hope to finalize the preliminary agreements pertaining to the debt restructuring process by the end of this month. After that, we can restart development projects that were temporarily put on hold and pass on the benefits of this newfound economic stability to the people. However, in the case of essential transport infrastructure projects, we intend to allocate around 8,750 million rupees worth of funds from this year's budget. We expect to secure parliamentary approval for this proposal next week.
When I held the portfolio of Minister of Trade, I initiated several development projects in Mihintale. One of our goals was to transform Mihintale into a distribution centre for imported goods for the northern, north central and eastern provinces. We also plan to build an export processing zone in Mihintale for the export products of these provinces. We intend to transport these goods to and from the Colombo port via the railway. Now we are in the process of securing land for these projects. Once I received the portfolio of the Minister of Transport, we managed to secure around 30 billion rupees worth of funds for the development of the Northern Railway line from the Indian Credit Facility. As the first part of that project, we completed the renovation of the railway line from Anuradhapura to Omante. The next step is the renovation of the section of the railway line from Anuradhapura to Maho. With the completion of that project, we are confident that within the next 2 months, we will be able to reduce the time of the railway journey from Jaffna to Colombo from 7.5 hours to 5.5 hours. Apart from that, we have taken the initial steps in constructing over 60 kilometers of railway lines connecting to Mihintale to Trincomalee.
Taking you to politics now, former chairman of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, former President Maithripala Sirisena says he resigned from his position as chairman of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party for the betterment of the party and its members. He went on to say that there is an ongoing national conspiracy aimed at destroying the Sri Lanka National Party, added that he appointed Dr. Vijayadasa Rajapaksa as the party's acting chairman, as there were no other individuals qualified to hold the position.
The Galle electorate district rally of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party was held in Karandaniya yesterday under the patronage of former chairman of the party, former President Maithripala Sirisena, and Dr. Vijayadasa Rajapaksa, who was barred from acting as the SLFP chairman by a court order.
Why did I resign from the chairmanship? I did so for your betterment. If I did not resign from my post in a backdrop where a former president filed a court case against me, resulting in restraining orders, none of these organizers would be able to compete in the election, as the Election Commission does not accept such candidates. This is why I resigned. When Dr. Vijayadasa Rajapaksa assumed duty as the acting chairman of the party, there were numerous allegations. I was accused of selling the party for 170 million rupees to secure funds for my court cases. I appointed him as the acting chairman after my resignation, as there was no other suitable person to hold the chairmanship of the party. If I reveal their past, they would have to run away. They are attempting to hold the chairmanship without any shame for their actions. It is the presidential election that will be held first, therefore it is critical. Are we going to allow the separated faction of the SLFP to take control of the party? When they join forces with another party, they lose, regardless of whether the party wins or not.
Meanwhile, Dr. Vijayadasa Rajapaksa expressed his views to the media in Anuradhapura today.
වර්තමානයේ 10 දිනකට අඩු කුඩා කණ්ඩායමක් ශ්‍රී ලංකා නිදහස් පක්ෂය අස්ථාවර කරලා වෙන වෙනත් දේශපාලන පක්ෂවලට සහාය දීමට කටයුතු කිරීම නිසා තමයි මේ අර්බුදය මතුවලා තිබෙන්නේ. සමාජයේ කතා බහට ලක් වෙනවා මේ ශ්‍රී ලංකා නිදහස් පක්ෂය මේ වෙනකොට මේ අර්බුද රැසකට මුහුණ දීලා තියෙන මේ ඔබතුමා රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ මැතිතුමාගේ මේ කොන්ත්‍රාත්තුවක් විශ්ල කරන්න කියලා. ඒක යම් කිසි කෙනෙක් අනවබෝධයෙන් කියනවා ඇති මොකද අපේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුව 225 ඇතරේ කවදාවත් අනුන්ගේ කොන්ත්‍රාත්තුවක් ඉටු නොකරපු කෙනෙක් ඉන්නවා නම් ඒ මමයි කියලා මට බය නැතුව කියන්න පුළුවන්. දැන් ශ්‍රී ලංකා නිදහස් පක්ෂයේ ස්ථිර වශයෙන් ඔබතුමාද ජනාධිපති පක්ෂය කියලා නෙවෙයි අපේ සන්දානගත වෙලා තිබෙනවා. ඒ සන්දාන අතුරින් ශ්‍රී ලංකා නිදහස් පක්ෂය ඇතුළුව අපේක්ෂකයා විදියට ඉදිරිපත් වෙන්න ඒ උදවිය තීරණයක් අරගෙන තිබෙනවා. මම ඒකට සූදානම් වෙලා ඉන්නවා.
And opposition leader Sajith Premadasa states that the government is imposing tax burden on the general public while claiming that the International Monetary Fund is responsible for the measures taken. Addressing a gathering in Casbaba, he questioned the government's policy of agreeing to the International Monetary Fund's terms without discrimination.
The 243rd edition of the Sakkula program was held at the Ratnapitiya New Model College in Kasbawa under the patronage of opposition leader Sajith Premadasa.
They are trying to create a tax formula for rental houses now. What do they say? They say that they created this because of the IMF. We would also agree to work with the IMF. However, that does not mean you have to agree to everything they say. They claim that they had to do it because of the IMF after unleashing a tax tsunami.
Sarvajana Balaya Political Alliance invited all citizens to their inaugural public rally in Nugegoda tomorrow in order to reinvigorate the expectations of 6.9 million people. Addressing a media gathering, member of Sarvajana Balaya and leader of the Maubima Janata Party, Dilip Jayavira said that like most countries in the world, Sri Lanka too should adopt a two-party model.
The maiden public rally of the Sarvajana Balaya Political Alliance is scheduled to take place tomorrow at 2 p.m. at the Ananda Samarakon Open Air Theatre in Nugegoda. The Sarvajana Balaya Political Alliance convened a media briefing today to inform the public of their inaugural rally tomorrow.
It is pointless to nominate three separate candidates from the UNP, SJP and the NPP for the upcoming election. Instead, they can form one alliance by merging all three of their parties together and nominate one candidate for the election. Why do we propose this? Because all these three parties have similar manifestos. 6.9 million people voted to elect a new government by defeating former President Maithripala Sirisena's government, which was jointly led by Ranil, Sajith and Anura. However, the president who was appointed following the Sirisena government fled the country by handing it over to our enemies.
As supporters of the previous government, we have an irrevocable responsibility to implement measures to fulfill the hopes and expectations of the public. In addition, we highly doubt whether Ranil Wickremesinghe, the SLPP or any other minor political party is capable of addressing the expectations and concerns of the public. This party was formulated in order to address the void created in Sri Lankan politics.
Most countries in the world have two mainstream political parties. This is relevant to the local context as well. One of them is the patriotic leftist nationalist political camp, while the other one is the right-wing liberal political camp. We request all of you to join us tomorrow at 2 p.m. in Nugegoda to form a happy nation based on entrepreneurship.
Welcome back. We take you to business news now. The Ministry of Finance says that the proposed imputed rental income tax in the International Monetary Fund staff report will focus on high wealth individuals and not average income earners. Following the heavy criticism from the opposition regarding the tax, the Finance Ministry issued a statement stating that a suitable tax-free threshold will be introduced to ensure that the tax is targeted on very high-value properties or multiple properties owned by wealthy members of society.
In the IMF Country Report number 24 of 161 issued by the International Monetary Fund following the second review of Sri Lanka's Extended Fund Facility Programme, reference is made to a proposed property tax to be implemented as an imputed rental income tax. The IMF report said that based on the recent IMF technical assistance, an imputed rental income tax from owner-occupied and vacant residential property would be an appropriate substitute for the proposed property tax in Sri Lanka. Clarifying the statements made in the IMF report, the Ministry of Finance said a key reason for the economic crisis in the country was the sharp decline in government tax revenue that led to high budget deficits and the resultant escalation of public debt to unsustainable levels. Accordingly, the ministry said the government, in an effort to improve government revenue, introduced revenue-based fiscal consolidation during the last 2 years in an attempt to bring revenue from a record low of 8.3% of GDP in 2022 to 15% of GDP by the the end of 2025. The ministry added that the revenue targets for 2023 have been largely met and that the country is on track to reach the required level of 13.5% of GDP by the end of 2024. Therefore, there is a further 1.5% of GDP revenue gain expected in 2025 in order to reach the 15% of GDP revenue target. Accordingly, the main revenue measure expected to help achieve the 2025 target is a wealth tax that is focused on property. The ministry said the tax is still being designed and that it is premature to outline specific details of rates and thresholds. However, it added that the focus of this tax is on high-income individuals and not on average income earners. It is also said that a suitable tax-free threshold will be introduced to ensure that the tax is targeted on very high-value property or multiple properties that are owned by wealthy members of society. This tax is expected to yield 0.2% of GDP by 2025 and 0.4% of GDP in a full year in 2026. The tax is expected to go through the regular legal process of amendments to the required legislation and is expected to come into force in April 2025. The ministry said a similar tax to the proposed tax is mentioned in the Inland Revenue Act No. 10 of 2006, termed Net Annual Value. Accordingly, it will also be subject to existing taxes such as local authority rates and stamp duty. Therefore, there is significant precedence for such a property tax. The ministry added that a failure to reach the required level of government tax revenue that can fund public expenditure would lead to a recurrence of the economic crisis that had devastating impacts on the entire country.
A memorandum of understanding was signed by the Federation of Information Technology in Sri Lanka and the Department of Samurdhi Development recently, providing training and employment for the youth of families of government beneficiary programs. The MOU aims to improve the digital economy to $15 billion by 2030 from the current $4 billion. Under the MOU, FITIS will provide its IT-related training for the youth of underprivileged families who are now enrolled in government beneficiary programs to equip them with the skills essential for employment in the ICT sector. The employment opportunities will be provided by the member companies of FITIS. And we have Amrit Fernando from Capital Alliance with a few thoughts to round off our Markets in View segment.
Last week, the domestic equity market experienced a marginal decline. The ASPI decreased by 4 points to 12,310, while the S&P SL20 also fell slightly, falling 10 points to close at 3,645. Despite these declines, market turnover saw significant improvement, growing by 80% to 10.2 billion rupees, driven by greater domestic participation. Looking ahead, this week's trading is expected to remain subdued due to the shortened 3-day trading week, likely leading to reduced weekly turnovers. In Treasury auctions last week, the government raised 510 billion rupees through a combination of Treasury bills and bonds, with interest rates for the bill auction increasing by 20 to 30 basis points across the board. For this week, the government aims to raise 230 billion rupees at Wednesday's Treasury bill auction.
That wraps up tonight's edition of First at 9. We'll see you again tomorrow at the same time. I'm Indivari Amuatta. Good night.